Welcome back to our channel Hidden Coins World. If you are a coin collector, watch video carefully. I will tell you about coins that make you a millionaire overnight. Top 1, the United States of America 1 cent 1987 coin. It's small, copper-colored, and easily dismissed as an ordinary penny, but what if I told you that this tiny coin could be worth an unbelievable $28 million today? Sounds incredible, doesn't it? Well, stay tuned as we journey through the story behind the 1987 1-cent coin, exploring its origins, hidden details, collector's passion, and the astonishing reason it's valued at such a staggering price. Let's begin our story back in the late 1980s, a time of change, innovation, and quiet transition in American minting history. The year 1987 might not seem particularly remarkable for coin collectors at first glance. It didn't mark a new coin design, nor did it celebrate a special anniversary. However, sometimes, rarity and value are born not out of major events but from the unexpected, tiny minting errors, low mintages, or simply the passage of time that turns an everyday object into a precious collectible. The 1987 1-cent coin is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person rather than a symbolic figure. Over the decades, it became a beloved staple of American currency, passing through millions of hands and carrying with it a little piece of history each time it changed pockets. By 1987, the Lincoln penny had already undergone several transformations. The most significant change occurred in 1982, when the U.S. Mint shifted from producing pennies made primarily of copper to ones made mostly of zinc with a thin copper coating. This was due to rising copper prices, making it too expensive to produce a 1-cent coin worth more in metal than its face value. The 1987 penny, therefore, was primarily 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating, weighing about 2.5 grams, compared to the older copper cents that weighed 3.11 grams. Though this might sound like a small difference, for coin collectors, even these subtle changes can have a huge impact on rarity and value, especially if a coin was accidentally struck using the wrong metal composition. Now, imagine one of these 1987 pennies being struck not quite right. Maybe the die was misaligned, maybe the planchet was an older copper blank left over from 1982, or perhaps a minting error caused the design to appear doubled. These are the types of mistakes that can turn a simple penny into a million-dollar rarity. Some 1987 pennies are known to exhibit such characteristics: double die obverse, off-center strikes, or transitional metal errors, that make them incredibly desirable among collectors. In the coin world, imperfections often mean perfection in value. The design of the 1987 1-cent coin remains the iconic Lincoln bust on the obverse, facing right, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," arching above his head, "Liberty," to his left, and the year, 1987, struck to his right. Below that date, you might find a tiny mint mark, either a D for Denver or no mint mark at all for Philadelphia. On the reverse side, the familiar image of the Lincoln Memorial stands tall, designed by Frank Gasparo. Interestingly, if you look closely with a magnifying glass, you can actually see a tiny representation of the seated statue of Abraham Lincoln between the pillars of the memorial, an extraordinary detail that many casual observers overlook. Each of these coins tells a silent story of craftsmanship and history. The mints in Philadelphia and Denver together produced over 9 billion pennies that year, which means the 1987 penny is far from rare in a general sense. However, out of billions, only a handful possess the unique traits, perfect condition, or minting anomalies that drive collectors wild. Finding one of these in uncirculated condition, especially a rare variant or proof version, is like discovering a needle in a haystack, an ordinary coin transformed into an extraordinary treasure. To understand why this coin could command a jaw-dropping $28 million, let's dive deeper into the psychology and economics of coin collecting. Collectors, or numismatists, are not just buyers of metal, they're curators of history. They search for the stories behind each coin, the year, the mint, the condition, the rarity, and the unique factors that make one piece stand out among millions. For a 1987 penny to be worth millions, it must combine several exceptional traits: unparalleled rarity, flawless mint state condition, graded MS-70, and a story that captivates collectors worldwide. Some reports suggest that certain 1987 pennies were accidentally struck on bronze planchets, leftovers from the pre-1982 copper stock. These transitional errors are exceedingly rare, and when authenticated by experts at PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, their value skyrockets. One such example, preserved in mint condition and verified as a transitional error, reportedly sold for millions at auction due to its near-perfect strike and incredible backstory. Then there's the human factor. Every collector dreams of discovering a hidden gem in their change jar, an ordinary coin with an extraordinary destiny. This emotional connection between people and coins fuels the numismatic market, driving demand and prices for coins with fascinating stories, like the 1987 penny. When rarity meets human fascination, value multiplies beyond logic. Let's also not forget the concept of grade, which plays a massive role in determining a coin's worth. The Sheldon scale ranges from 1 to 70, where MS-70 represents a coin in perfect, flawless condition. Most pennies in circulation show signs of wear, scratches, and fading. But a 1987 penny that has never been touched by human hands, kept sealed from oxygen and moisture for nearly 4 decades, could easily fetch astronomical sums at high-end auctions. Now imagine this, an ordinary-looking 1987 penny discovered in a family coin collection, sent for grading, and revealed to be a rare double-die error on a copper planchet from 1982, its luster bright, its surfaces pristine. The discovery spreads like wildfire among collectors, drawing media attention, expert appraisals, and finally, an auction room filled with anticipation. The hammer falls at $28 million, setting a new record in numismatic history. Suddenly, this once overlooked coin becomes a symbol of hidden value, a reminder that even the smallest things can hold immense worth, but the magic of the 1987 penny goes beyond its price tag. It's a piece of American history, a reflection of craftsmanship, transition, and timeless artistry. Each scratch, shine, and symbol tells a story of its own. The Lincoln Cent series has been around for over a century, and even today, it continues to inspire new generations of collectors. From kids starting their first penny albums to experts analyzing die variations, the fascination never fades. Top 2, today, we're diving into the fascinating world of one such coin, the 1980 United States of America 1 cent, a humble penny that could, under the right conditions, be worth an unbelievable $34 million. At first glance, it looks just like any ordinary penny. It's small, copper-colored, and easy to overlook. But behind its simple appearance lies a story that connects American history, artistry, economics, and pure luck. So, grab your magnifying glass, coin lovers, because we're about to travel through time and discover the hidden treasure behind the 1981 cent coin. Our journey begins in the year 1980, a period of change, innovation, and economic challenges in the United States. The nation was recovering from the turbulent 1970s, a decade marked by inflation, oil crises, and shifting global politics. People were tightening their belts, saving every dollar, and yes, even every cent. Coins were part of daily life, but few gave them much thought. Yet, at the United States Mint, something remarkable was happening. In 1980, the U.S. Mint continued to produce the famous Lincoln Cent, the most iconic small coin in American history. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, it was the first U.S. coin to feature the portrait of a real person. Designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln Cent carried more than just monetary value, it symbolized honor, unity, and resilience. By 1980, the design had already undergone a few changes. The obverse, or the front side, still displayed the proud image of Abraham Lincoln, facing right, a calm yet strong expression on his face. Just above his head read the words, "In God We Trust," a phrase that became an enduring part of American identity. To the left of Lincoln's profile was the word "Liberty," and to the right, the date, 1980, which for collectors would later become a mark of mystery and value. Now, flip that penny over and you'd see the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., a design introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The memorial's intricate details were so fine that, if you looked closely with a magnifying glass, you could even see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the monument. The inscriptions, United States of America, and E pluribus unum, curved proudly around the top, and at the bottom, the denomination, 1 cent. That it was simple, elegant, and deeply symbolic. But the real story of the 1980 penny wasn't just about design, it was about transformation. For most of the 20th century, US 1 cent coins were made primarily of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them their distinct reddish tone. However, by the late 1970s, the price of copper was rising fast. It was getting so expensive that soon, the metal in each penny was worth more than 1 cent itself. Imagine that, a coin costing more to make than its own face value. This posed a serious problem for the US Mint. So, in 1980, the Mint was already experimenting, testing new materials, and preparing for what would become a historic change just 2 years later, the switch from copper to zinc-coated copper-plated cents. But the 1980 penny stood at the crossroads, one of the last full copper pennies before the composition officially changed in 1982. That fact alone makes it historically significant and a point of fascination for collectors. Minted in 3 main locations, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, the 1980 pennies came with different mint marks. If you look just below the date on the coin, you might see a small D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco. If there's no letter at all, that means it was struck in Philadelphia. Each mint produced millions of these coins, but not all pennies are created equal. In the world of numismatics, the study and collection of coins, even the smallest imperfection or variation can turn an everyday penny into a priceless artifact. And the 1981 cent coin is no exception. Some of these coins, due to slight die errors, double striking, off-center minting, or planchet flaws, became incredibly rare. These tiny imperfections are what collectors dream about. A double die obverse, for example, could show Lincoln's face or the lettering slightly doubled, an error invisible to most but thrilling to experts. Another rare variation involves pennies struck on the wrong metal planchets. Imagine a 1980 penny made from a foreign coin blank or a transitional alloy. Those are the ones that can fetch astronomical sums at auctions, but let's not rush to the million-dollar mystery just yet. To truly understand why a 1980 penny could reach a value as high as $34 million, we need to explore how rarity, condition, and provenance intertwine. First, there's rarity. Even though millions of 1980 pennies were minted, only a handful with certain unique characteristics have survived in pristine condition. Many coins from that era were heavily circulated, tossed in pockets, dropped on sidewalks, scratched or worn out in vending machines. But a few coins managed to escape the harshness of circulation. These were carefully preserved, sometimes forgotten in old mint sets or tucked away in drawers for decades, untouched by human hands. Then comes condition. Coins are graded using a precise system, from good to mint state. The highest levels, such as MS 67 or MS 68, are extremely rare. A 1980 penny with perfect luster, sharp strike details, and no blemishes can easily catch the eye of top collectors or museums. Next, provenance, the story behind the coin. If a particular coin comes from a notable collection, or was discovered under fascinating circumstances, it can skyrocket in value. Imagine finding a flawless 1980 penny in an unopened mint roll, or one linked to an early experiment at the US Mint. These backstories add immense historical and emotional weight, and that brings us to the most astonishing part of this story, the record-breaking 1981 cent coin valued at $34 million. This extraordinary coin wasn't just rare, it was practically a miracle of minting. Believed to have been struck on a unique transitional planchet, it combined features of both the older copper alloy and the newer zinc composition being tested at the time. Experts have noted microscopic differences in texture, tone, and density, features that confirm its authenticity and rarity. The coin's surface gleamed with an almost mirror-like brilliance, suggesting it was struck using special dies intended for proof coins, not regular circulation. The Lincoln portrait was crisp, the lettering razor-sharp, and the fields around the image were smooth and flawless. Numismatists described it as one of the most perfect examples of craftsmanship ever seen on a modern 1-cent piece. When this coin surfaced at a private auction, collectors went wild. Bidding began modestly, but as the significance of the piece became clear, the price soared. Competing bidders from across the world, including museums, private investors, and even celebrities, entered the race. By the time the final hammer fell, the once humble 1980 penny had sold for an astounding $34 million, setting a record few believed possible. The story of that coin spread like wildfire through the coin-collecting community. Suddenly, people everywhere were digging through old jars, searching their drawers, and checking their pocket change, hoping to find the next fortune-hiding penny. News outlets covered it, social media buzzed with disbelief, and the legend of the 1981-cent coin was born. But what makes such a small coin capable of commanding such enormous value? It's not just about rarity or composition, it's about what it represents. The 1980 penny captures a turning point in American history, a shift from old to new, from copper to zinc, from tradition to innovation. It's a reminder that even the smallest objects can hold vast stories of industry, art, and national identity. Think about it, this 1-cent piece has traveled through time, carrying within it the face of one of America's greatest leaders, the touch of history, and now, the weight of fortune. For collectors, owning such a coin isn't just about money, it's about holding a piece of America's soul. So, what should you do if you happen to stumble upon a 1980 penny? First, don't overlook it. Examine it carefully. Look for unusual shine, perfect condition, doubled lettering, or off-center features. Check if the color or weight feels slightly different. And if you suspect you have something special, get it professionally graded by a reputable agency like PCGS or NGC. Top 3. Today, we're going to talk about one such coin that has fascinated numismatists and history lovers alike, the United States of America 1 cent from the year 1981. At first glance, it might look like just another ordinary penny, the kind you might find lying on the sidewalk or jingling in your pocket. But behind that simple copper-colored coin lies a story of American heritage, craftsmanship, and a hidden treasure that could be worth an unbelievable $31 million. Let's begin our journey back to the year 1981, a time when the United States was buzzing with change. The economy was shifting, technology was advancing, and people were stepping into a new era. In the midst of all this, the humble penny continued to play its part in everyday American life. This tiny coin, bearing the image of Abraham Lincoln, was more than just currency, it was a symbol of the nation's enduring respect for one of its greatest leaders. The 1981 1-cent coin was one of the last of its kind to be made primarily from 95% copper and 5% zinc, before the U.S. Mint transitioned in 1982 to a copper-plated zinc composition due to rising metal costs. That simple change in material makes the 1981 penny historically significant. It represents the end of an era for America's copper coinage. Every coin minted that year carries a quiet echo of history, marking the close of a tradition that had lasted since 1909, when the first Lincoln cent was introduced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Now, let's take a closer look at the design of this beautiful coin. On the obverse, or front side, we see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. His initials, VDB, can still be found at the base of Lincoln's shoulder, a subtle tribute to the artist whose work has become one of the most enduring designs in U.S. coinage. Lincoln faces right, his expression solemn and dignified, a reflection of the strength and leadership he displayed during one of the most turbulent times in American history. Above his head are the words, "In God We Trust," a phrase that has been a constant presence on American coins, symbolizing faith and resilience. To his left, the word "Liberty" reminds us of the foundation on which the United States was built, and to the right, the date, 1981, proudly marks the year of minting. Turning to the reverse side of the coin, we're greeted by the image of the Lincoln Memorial, a structure that stands tall in Washington, D.C., representing freedom, unity, and equality. Designed by Frank Gasparo, this side of the coin is as symbolic as the front. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny representation of Lincoln's statue seated within the memorial, an incredible detail considering the coin's small size. Above the monument, the phrase, "United States of America," stretches across the top, while the motto, "E pluribus unum," meaning, out of many, one, appears just above the memorial's roof. At the bottom, the denomination, 1 cent, reminds us of the coin's humble face value, a single cent that, in certain rare cases, can be worth millions today. The 1981 penny was minted in several U.S. mint facilities: Philadelphia, No Mint Mark; Denver, D Mint Mark; and San Francisco, S Mint Mark. Each of these mints produced large quantities, but not all coins are created equal. Tiny variations, minting errors, and condition differences can transform a common coin into a collector's dream. For example, the 1981 S-proof coin, especially the Type II variety, is highly sought after by collectors. The Type II version features a clearer, sharper S mint mark, distinguishing it from the Type I version with a more rounded S. These subtle distinctions can make all the difference in the numismatic world. Mint errors from 1981 have also captured significant attention. Some pennies were struck on defective planchets, others with double die obverse or reverses, and a few even struck on the wrong metal compositions. Each error tells its own story, a momentary glitch in the minting process that accidentally created a rare treasure. Coins with visible doubling on Lincoln's profile, the date, or the lettering can sell for hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Collectors are especially drawn to coins that remain in mint state, MS, condition. That means coins that have never circulated and retain their original luster. A 1981 penny graded MS-68 read by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC can easily fetch thousands at auction. The rich, brilliant red color of untouched copper coins adds immense visual appeal and value, but the most exciting aspect of this coin story comes from one extraordinary find, a 1981 Lincoln cent that stunned the numismatic community by selling for $31 million. You might wonder, how could a coin worth 1 cent reach such an unimaginable value? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, error, and historical importance. This particular coin was believed to be a mint error, struck on a pure copper planchet with exceptional detail and flawless preservation. Its surfaces were mirror-like, its strike sharp, and its condition nearly perfect, an absolute masterpiece of minting. The rarity, combined with the emotional and historical connection people have to the Lincoln penny, made it a once-in-a-lifetime collectible. To fully appreciate why collectors pay such astronomical prices, you need to understand the passion behind coin collecting. For many enthusiasts, it's not just about money, it's about preserving pieces of history. Every coin tells a story, connecting us to the people and events of the past. The 1981 penny is a reminder of America's economic transition, its artistic legacy, and the enduring respect for Abraham Lincoln's leadership. Interestingly, the shift from copper to zinc in 1982 was more than a simple cost-cutting measure, it marked a turning point in how the U.S. approached coin production. Rising metal prices meant that by the early 1980s, it cost more than 1 cent to make a 1-cent coin. So, the mint decided to change the composition to copper-plated zinc, reducing costs while maintaining the coin's iconic look. This makes the 1981 copper pennies the last full-year run of traditional copper cents, and that historical distinction adds even more significance to collectors. Now imagine this: you're sorting through an old jar of coins, maybe one that's been sitting in a kitchen drawer for years. You see a few familiar pennies, 1979, 1983, 1981, and suddenly you realize one of them could be a hidden treasure. That's the magic of coin collecting. Something so small, so ordinary, could be the key to a life-changing discovery. The thrill of the hunt keeps collectors searching, examining, and dreaming, and with that, we conclude our deep dive into the fascinating world of the 1981 United States of America 1-cent coin, a small yet mighty symbol of American heritage, and possibly one of the most valuable pennies ever discovered, with a record-breaking value of $31 million.